Blah, blah, blah. Whatever you say.
Welcome. And today we'll dive into a couple of great malicious compliance stories and their reactions. Coming up we have: military spouse accuses me of cheating on my husband. With my husband. Plus we have: landlord advertises all of our company's equipment for sale to our competitors. Best follow our eviction to the letter. I just know you're gonna love these stories, so this should be a fun session. Hi, this is Derek. I just put the Drama Llama, Fred, back in his pen so that I can do this quick video for you with some of the stuff that Fred found on Reddit earlier today. If this is your first time watching our videos, help me out by watching to the end, and then giving me some feedback in the comment area below. I do respond to every single one, so don't be shy. And if you want more of these videos daily, don't forget to like and subscribe, with notifications turned on for this channel. Oh boy, let's get ready for some malicious stories. Heterochromia Cat posted: military spouse accuses me of cheating on my husband. With my husband. I've been living in Japan for a little over 2 years with my husband. He was born here and we decided to move to his hometown. It's a small city, but there's enough to do without getting bored. I describe us as an AMWF couple, Asian man, white female for those who don't know. It's not so common in Western countries. And it can feel like we are some rare shiny Pokemon. As AMWF in rural Japan, lots of staring, occasional secret picture, or even small chats if an old lady is brave enough to approach us. It can feel uncomfortable eating at a restaurant because kids will turn around in their seat and stare at us the whole time with an open fish mouth. Coincidentally, there's a small US military base located in this city. The closer you are downtown, the more American families you see. I'm constantly mistaken for being military by Americans and Japanese, which is understandable. Besides myself, I only know 5 other interracial marriages here. It's always locals who ask about my American husband when I'm out alone, which I respond in Japanese: watashi no ato wa nihonjin desu. Koko ni zunda imasu. My husband is Japanese and I live here. Or something along those lines. Americans never ask about my marriage as they assume my spouse is American. When we are together in public, we do abnormal couples behavior such as holding hands. No, couples rarely hold hands in public, let alone say I love you. We don't go downtown too often since it's all pay to park, and it's a nightmare to find a place. It was a beautiful warm day for the first time in months, but we decided to battle for a spot and walk around the shops. The crowd was heavy since the weather was great and winter was ending. The season for new American families to move here just finished, so I'm sure this was many people's first time to leisurely walk and shop outside. We find a parking spot and made our way to the outside shops. Of course, we are holding hands and casually talking and laughing. Wow! I hear this from an American woman about 10 feet behind us. You should know that a Japanese stereotype against Americans is that we are rudely and obnoxiously loud. And this wow was loud enough for me to turn my head around at the noise. She was with 2 other moms who had 3 kids each. They were staring at me, but perhaps we just accidentally had eye contact at the right time. Seriously, another little homewrecker is doing this in public. Chill woman, you're so loud even I can hear you. We find a table nearby at the Starbucks outside. We are enjoying our drinks when the same group of women approached us with their strollers in tow. They definitely had some sort of purpose with something to say to us. Let's call her Ona, woman in Japanese. Ona, excuse me, but you need to keep whatever you're doing in your messed up home. Doing that in public in front of families to see is disgusting and immoral. My kids don't need to see such a bad display of marriage. I'm so confused, as was my husband who can speak English. Who knew drinking coffee outside was a crime against humanity and marriage? Me, I'm sorry? What did we do? Ona, you know exactly what you're doing. She points to my wedding ring. Me, no, I don't. Ona, good lord, does your husband know about this? Is he on a ship right now? That's so like a dependopotamus. Her friends laugh. In case you don't speak military, a dependopotamus is slang for a military wife who stays at home all day, doesn't clean, uses their spouse as an ATM, and looks like Jabba the Hutt. It dawns on me, she thinks I'm a military spouse, and I'm cheating on my American husband. I started laughing because she's suggesting I'm cheating on my husband, with my husband. Me, this is my spouse. I'm actually not part of the military community, and have a Japanese visa. Ona looks at my significant other up and down. The two women behind her apologize, but the Ona didn't believe it. Ona, no one would voluntarily want to live in this little town. Nice lie, but you're not representing the military community. You make all of us wives look like whores. Who is your husband and what's his rank? Also, I need your dependent ID. My husband is a high rank, so he'll make sure your husband is aware of your infidelity. She pulls out her phone to probably type my response. I'm offended since this is actually a nice place to live and very open to foreigners. Me, look, my husband's name is Ray. Not his real name, I don't want to reveal personal info. And he's sitting right here. I'm not going to show you my military ID since I don't have one. And you're not the police. As proof, you can obviously see our wedding bands match, and here's a picture. I show her my phone screen, which is of us in traditional Japanese clothes on our wedding day. Her eyes became huge at the picture. Her two friends and their spawn have already started walking away. Ona, why are you in a relationship with him? You should be in a normal relationship and start having a family with American kids. She says some other statements which I'd consider racist against the Asian race. It's so ironic because we are in Japan. And she's fussing about me being married to a Japanese man. My husband has been quiet throughout the whole exchange, and says to me we should go. I agree and stood up. Me, stop. The things you are saying are extremely offensive. I was part of the military community myself some years ago, and what you're doing is against spousal conduct. She smirked. Go ahead and tell people what I did, then. My high-ranking husband is an E7, and everything will be swept under the rug no matter what happens. You can't touch me. So that's what I did. Note, this is a small military community. Someone does something minor, and it's talked about between wives like chickens. Later that day, I run into my friend who works on the base, and she's well known in the community for being one of the main event coordinators. I don't miss this chance to comply with Ona's demand, and explain to my friend about the exchange, and how it made my husband extremely uncomfortable with her remarks. She asked me if this person looked like so-and-so, which I said yes. My friend rolls her eyes. Friend, she just arrived a couple months ago and is already causing problems with rumors and drama. Looks like we have a racist, too. I'll make sure what she said is passed on. It's been half a year later and I didn't hear anything about Ona again, since I distanced myself from making military friends here. I've only been in my new city for a little over 2 years, and experienced more drama from military families than I have my whole high school career. That is, until now. Last week, I ran into my friend who's getting ready to leave back to the United States. We had a little discussion about her moving and my family planning, and dropped a bombshell. Friend, do you remember Ona? Who accused you of cheating on your non-existent military spouse, and called your husband a racist name? Me, of course. I haven't heard anything from her since. Friend, well, I mentioned we were already having problems with her not long after she got here. I told my boss that there's a person who was bothering and threatening civilians and asking for IDs, which isn't allowed for someone with her status. My boss was extremely interested after I mentioned her name, because Ona was scheduled for an interview in my department. I suggested we look at her social media accounts from her past behavior, because we don't tolerate racism. It was easy to find her Twitter and Facebook, particularly Facebook since we have many mutual friends. Her SNS was shocking. While she set her Facebook to private, her Twitter was littered with malicious tweets and retweets. This included racism slang for many nationalities, colorful language, and using her husband's military rank to bully others. She made it very clear that she wants to see her current city burned to the ground. And why would anyone want to learn Japanese since it sounds terrible? We printed some of the more extreme things she posted. And we still invited her to the interview. Oh, and did I mention my boss is Japanese? So she comes into the interview, which I was part of. I asked 3 good things about her, which is, she says, dependent, gets things done, and friendly. My boss just looked at her for a second before he pulled out her tweets and asked her to explain how she can friendly serve the local community if she hates it so much. Ona was floored and said someone hacked into her account. despite there being at least 3 years of slanderous tweets. We thanked her for coming and said we can't accept an employee with this conduct. As far as I know, she's still not working. Because some spouses found her Twitter not long after the interview. And was shared in all departments. No one will touch her application now. So all of this was discovered because I told you about her accusations. Friends. Oh. And she's kind of an outcast socially right now. Because she cheated on her husband a couple months ago. There you have it, folks. Because one person couldn't mind their own business. They lost a potential job and had their social media exposed. Super ironic since she became the dependopotamus and adulterer, the same thing she was accusing me of. Edit, since some posts say it's fake because my writing sucks. This is how I tell my stories online. What are your thoughts on Heterochromia Cat story? Please share in the comments below. Here's how some Reddit members reacted to this story. Starfleet Auxiliary reacted with, "It's always funny how the people who accuse others of misconduct the loudest are usually the ones engaging in said misconduct themselves. Lots of being nice to your face. And then talking behind your back, too, by the older women. I'll stick to my best friend here, who is an old Japanese woman. And gives me lots of snacks. Little old Japanese ladies with snacks are the best. Used to live next to one. Have her to thank for introducing me to green tea." What a bunch of great reactions. Now on to the next story posted by Poshbo. Who posted, "LandLord advertises all of our company's equipment for sale to our competitors. Best follow our eviction to the letter. Spoilers, LandLord gives us 7 days to vacate our leisure business from the building. He thinks we can't empty the business during lockdown, and proceeds to advertise our equipment for sale to our competition. We sell everything in 7 days and destroy the rest. Enjoy no rent and the loss of your potential buyers. I work for a leisure company, think soft play, indoor soccer. Laser tag, can't be specific. Prior to lockdown, managers and the big bosses were negotiating the renewal of the lease on one of our parks. Things were going mostly smoothly, however, the landlords were difficult to contact. Then 2020's poop hit the fan. All of our sites were closed, and everything was thrown into a mess. Negotiations began to slip down the priority list. Nobody thought the landlord would push an eviction for an expired lease during this period. Especially with it still getting rent, despite the site's closure. And the closure of every business and restaurant in the immediate area. We were wrong. A few days ago we received a letter saying we had 7 days to leave the premises and take everything with us. We are reminded that anything left in the building after 7 days will become the landlord's property. That line is very important. Now a lot of construction goes into installing our equipment into a new building, which makes emptying one even harder. At a lockdown, with no staff and most businesses shut, it meant that saving much of our assets would prove to be extremely difficult. To lose a profitable site and all of its assets is definitely a blow to our company. But here is where it gets worse. A few days into our 7-day eviction, we find out that the landlord has been advertising our park to our competitors. But he isn't offering just the building. He is offering all of our stuff pre-installed. Ready to go, just needs rebranding. The landlord has evicted us from the property in an attempt to increase rent and make a solid profit from our equipment installed, because he thinks we won't be able to empty the park. We were furious. And here is where the malicious compliance came in. We were told we had 7 days to move everything we owned out of the property. So that's what we did. Local businesses from all around offered up free space to store our things. A few people came back out of lockdown, and they all spent the rest of the week removing, selling or destroying everything that was related to us. We didn't even leave light fittings in every other site vacation we have seen. We always end up leaving thousands of dollars worth of disco lights in the ceilings, because they're too hard to get. We leave most of the construction in, as well as things like the bars and kitchens that all stay intact, recognizable as what they once were, but not this building. We ripped up the flooring we installed, tore down the walls that were not part of the original structure. Wooden walls to divide up the space, ripped apart our manager's offices and removed all artwork and lockers. The landlord now has every new deal he has been making dead in the water. A large renovation build to install new flooring, etc. Or a company willing to do it themselves like we were. Lockdown has been extended another 4 weeks. So he has at least another 4 weeks without rent, we were paying and won't have any potential buyers. Silver lining, the assets we got out of the site, fridges, TVs, equipment, food, tables have all been sold, and the lack of rent and additional income has helped the business and paid staff wages. I was waiting for things to unfold. Here's what happened next. We handed in the keys and it was probably the quickest handover we've ever had. The landlord clearly didn't want to make any kind of conversation. And there was definitely an elephant in the room. But he definitely said nothing about the lack of our equipment. Complications did arise when we went to get back various deposits. But he had no case to withhold the deposits from us as the building was in excellent shape. We had conducted much of the maintenance work ourselves. So the building was in a significantly better condition than we found it. We also cleaned up 99% of the rubbish and dirt from our demolition crusade, so he couldn't bill us for cleaning. A very minor bit of pressing from our legal team meant that we received everything owed back in full. The building is still vacant, and as of yet we don't know of any potential buyers. At this moment in time our company is still standing despite the pandemic closures and lack of business. Staff are all still employed and doing well. What are your thoughts on Poshbo's story? Please share in the comments below. Here's how some Reddit members reacted to this story. MM and I reacted with: would love a follow-up on the landlord's misery, a few months from now. Edit. Yes. So incredibly satisfying. This is the best news I've heard in months. Salba Jim reacted with: if he hadn't pulled that maneuver, you would have likely left much of it intact to his benefit. Instead you got everything out and managed to sell it to the benefit of your company and employees. You should send him a box of chocolates and a note thanking him for motivating you into doing what turned out to be the best option for your people. Although, hand delivering it and having someone record his reaction would be priceless. And finally, Sage1589 reacted with: glad someone beat me to this. Dear former landlord. Thank you, I guess. Well, there you have it. A perfectly great set of reactions from a bunch of upstanding citizens. Help support this channel by smashing the like and subscribe buttons. And hit that silly little bell as well to ensure you get the latest videos as they come out. Fred is always finding stuff for me to post regularly. So this is Derek signing off. Thanks for watching. Good grief, it sounds like Fred is out of his pen again. He must have found more stories for me to share with you. See you soon.